moving on. In this particular question, we have been asked to explain the statement and at the same time give an example. What is the statement? Let's have a look. In a chemical reaction, the total weight of the reactants is same as total weight of the products. Now, to explain this particular statement, allow me to take you into the chemistry laboratory so we can perform a reaction, so that we can perform an experiment onto exactly the same. Perfect. So that's where we are. Now, who is my apparatus over here? First of all, we have a white colored salt over there. Who is that? Calcium chloride. But for this particular experiment, I require a calcium chloride solution. So I am going to take that particular salt, dissolve it in a small quantity of water within a test tube. When calcium chloride dissolves in water, it gives me a calcium chloride solution. The second reactant is going to be a sodium sulfate solution. To generate that, to make that, what am I going to do? I am going to take an amount of sodium sulfate into my conical flask and carefully add a small amount of distilled water. The sodium sulfate will dissolve in the distilled water and therefore it will give me rise to a sodium sulfate solution. Now, to initiate the experiment, to start the experiment, what do I have to do? I need to make sure that the test tube which contains calcium chloride solution and the conical flask that contains sodium sulfate solution are now there together with respect to each other. But before I start the experiment, what am I going to do? I am going to carefully weigh the reactants onto a beam balance, onto an electronic balance, and I get the total mass of my reactants exactly as 300.23 grams. Now, to initiate the experiment, to start the experiment, what am I going to do? I am going to take these reactants and swirl them left and right, left and right, left and right. Both of the reactants are going to come in contact with each other and they are going to give rise to two products. The first one is going to be sodium chloride and the second one is going to become calcium sulfate, which happens to be a precipitate, and that are the white colored particles that you are seeing into the conical flask right now. Okay, let's write down a reaction for the same. First reactant, calcium chloride, given by the formula CaCl2. Second, sodium sulfate by the formula Na2SO4 gives me a precipitate, calcium sulfate, by the formula CaSO4, and gives me sodium chloride, which is nothing but NaCl. The perfectly balanced chemical equation is there in front of you. Let me read it out. CaCl2 plus Na2SO4 gives me CaSO4 plus 2 of NaCl. Whatever is there towards the left of the arrow is my reactant. Whatever is there towards the right is my product. And what do I need to do over here? To finish off the experiment, I need to take the help of the electronic balance one last time, and in this particular case, once again place the entire apparatus over it. This time I am taking the total mass of the products, which again comes exactly as 300.23 grams. Now, this entire experiment verifies the law of conservation of matter. So now is the time that we write it down with respect to understanding the statement which has been present over here. Let's begin. The statement basically complies with the law of conservation of matter, which implies that matter can neither be created nor can it be destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to the other. Another way to say it is, hence during a chemical reaction, the total mass of the reactants is exactly equal to the total mass of the products, provided the masses are measured under the same conditions of temperature and pressure. Okay, we need to give an example for the same. So why not pick up the example that we took in the laboratory? Have a look. Calcium chloride reacts with sodium sulfate, gives me calcium sulfate, which is indicated by the downward arrow because it's a precipitate, and we have sodium chloride, which is nothing but 2 of NaCl. What is the total mass of the reactants? 300.23 grams. What is the total mass of the products? 300.23 grams. And that sounds in absolute observation with the law of conservation of mass, with the law of conservation of matter.